Hello, everybody. This is episode 36 of In the Know, my daily short form podcast show, which is aimed at putting people in the know. A show where I cover a variety of topics using my experiences and viewpoints in life to put people in the know. You want to know what's the know? It's the understanding that seems to be hard for people to grasp, which can make their lives a lot simpler. The following is today's intro speech into the topic, and that introduction speech is regarding using sports to educate our inner city young boys. Growing up in the inner city, every young boy plays sports to some degree, and there's this notion that so many young boys have this ability to get drafted into professional sports. But the reality is, most will not go. So many won't go, it's not a viable career path. Now, how do you get that through the minds of our young boys in inner city communities? Well, we could use what they like to educate them, meaning sports is social studies, mathematics, science, history, English, and geography. Let's break this down. How do you use sports and education to aid inner city young boys? Let's check out some problems. When you observe the landscape of a lot of American cities, the school systems have not worked in the favor of a certain segment. And when you think about it, the segment of students that have been failed the most are our young black boys in school. There are a number of factors that can be pointed to via education as well as personal factors. As for the education system, there needs to be some sort of method that goes beyond the typical education provided for this segment of young students to perform well. Because the capabilities are there, but in my opinion, the curriculum is not relatable enough to make sense of given the student's surroundings. That does not mean we need to change the overall system, rather add to the system what is missing. Now let's look at the student. As for the individual, I was a young boy who went to school where the minds of all young children were taken into consideration. Then again, I didn't grow up in a major city either. Major cities have a different type of culture where the ability to receive adequate education is not always present. For the young ones in those schools, you are not getting pushed like you could be because no one expects you to do anything. My encouragement came from home and at school. But some students struggle with this on both sides, home as well as at school. So what happens is that you get shuffled into these special education classes that you don't need when truly there's nothing wrong with you at all. Now let's look at the teacher and what they may be dealing with. The educator needs to be able to do two things in a classroom. Be able to connect to the student who sometimes may come from another culture than themselves, but the other would have to be the ability to educate when you know they are not receiving adequate education. That'll help them. It's very tough to ask someone to almost be a magician in a classroom and make success out of a situation that they are sometimes set up to fail in. Now, there are most teachers who come to work and make their job happen somehow, but it does not happen without a lot of complaints. Let's look at the system that they're all in. The people who govern in this country that contribute financially to the schools are not concerned. They say they are, but there are way too many problems that exist. Now, when the school boards see the school performing well, then they want to say they have a part in it. That's when the educators have to put the administrators in a tight spot. Put them on the spot so they have to be involved. And when they are in a position to care, they are supposed to, then great things are able to happen. Now let's look at the methods to educating. In an effort to try to educate these young boys in underserved communities, using what they know best can aid them and you as the educator. And that is sports, considering sometimes that's all you can do for free that doesn't cost money if you're growing up, that you want to do as an activity. Now let's take two sports that are popular, the NBA and the NFL. When you're looking at this sport from the perspective of trying to connect to the young man in class, understand some things. Each class can be taught using the sports that so many young boys connect to. Let's try mathematics. When observing the statistics of the players, in order to understand them, you have to be good at math. Like, for example, if you're a young boy into basketball and you know how to follow basketball stats, you should know how to do math, meaning a triple-double is 10 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. Then you will know how to compile and interpret the data. You will be further good at math. Let's look at some scientific things. This area of study focuses on the injuries and how long the injuries take to heal. Also, not only the injury report, but health of the athletes, from the exercises to what they eat and put in their bodies. What about some social studies? When looking at this subject, you have to observe the behavioral aspect of the athlete and people around them, their business associates, families, friends, and intimate relationships. Also, we have to acknowledge how the athlete has a relationship with the society at large because they are indeed a public figure. What about English? This is for when you are listening to the sportscaster or reading what a journalist may write. And this is going to express how you are able to read and articulate what you see and read. What about history? This is the area where you have to know about the greats who played, stats of the past to forecast the future, and talking points regarding the best of everything else from past, not just players, but games and game day plays that have gone down in history. And last but not least, geography. Knowing what cities a team is located and what state they reside in can really help a kid with their geographical studies. So in the end, why we should be using what gets the attention of inner city boys. Growing up, trying to find ways to make school make sense is tough for a kid, because by the time you really get the hang of things, you may be done with it and on to the next thing. But when you're in poor areas of a city and a young boy living there, the education system can be afforded to you, puts you in a tough spot. The curriculum tends to be poor, and educators have a short fuse when dealing with you. So a method must be developed to not lose sight of these kids' potential. So, thank you for listening to In the Know, and can't wait to bring the next episode where we talk about why we need more after-school programs for grade school all the way even through high school.